And welcome to Divine Enigma, a podcast that talks about how to navigate through the complexities of the workplace as a modern day professional while simultaneously having a side hustle. We appreciate all of our audience members for taking some time out of their day to tune into another episode and look forward to providing you all with some value through our show today. My name is Sarah and I'll be the host for this podcast. This podcast will be available on all platforms where you can find podcasts, including Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts, and we're also on YouTube. So let's get started. And we're going to be talking about Agile PM, and I'm going to be going through like a cross vlog of how I'm studying it. It's to show. Hello, and welcome to Divine Enigma. So I probably said it in my intro, but I'm saying welcome again to the show. I'm getting a bit used to using YouTube. I'm not the greatest, but I'm learning. But I thought I'll just do a video on the new section of DSDM. I'm going to read chapter 13 of, and I'll put up in front of here, Agile PM, and it's chapter 13 I'm going to be reading, and it's the practical application of DSDM Principles. So we're going to look at 13.2 and 13.3, which is what is recommended for the Agile practitioner. So I'm going to read first part of 13.2. So it's called Principle 1, and it's focused on business needs. Before I kind of talk about focus on business needs, within the DSDM principles, it focuses on 8 principles. And the first one is focus on business needs, deliver on time, collaborate, never compromise on quality, build incrementally from firm foundations, develop iteratively, communicate continuously and clearly, and demonstrate control. I'll put all of the different areas of the DSDM principles that must be followed. So the first one is principle 1, and that is focus on business needs. So every decision taken during the project should be viewed in the light of the overriding project goal to deliver what the business needs to be delivered when it needs to be delivered. So that's focusing on business needs. So in practical terms, the project manager needs to ensure that members of the project team understand and respect the true business priorities by ensuring Moscow prioritization is correctly applied to the requirements and deliverables at all times. So Moscow stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have. The next is, during validation phase, the primary focus of the project manager is to ensure Moscow is properly applied as the requirements in the prioritization requirements are prioritized. Beyond the foundation phase, as requirements change and a solution evolves, the project manager must ensure that continuous reprioritizations necessary to converge on an accurate business solution is effective and continues to follow Moscow rules. At the kickoff for each time box, the project manager needs to ensure agreement to the Moscow prioritization for requirements to be addressed, products to be delivered, and acceptance criteria to be met at the end of the time box. These priorities must be business-driven, although other scheduling considerations such as dependency management may influence these priorities. Establish a valid business case. A well-thought-through business case will add momentum to a project by providing urgency for delivery and a sound business focus for team members. It is not the responsibility of the project manager, so i.e. you, to define or document the business case. That lies primarily with the business visionary. So that more or less will be like the project sponsor, assisted by the business analyst. The project manager simply needs to ensure that the relevant work to generate the business case is given the attention it's needed. So the next is ensure continuous business sponsorship and commitment. So the project manager must always remember that the ultimate owner of the project is the business sponsor. It is therefore vitally important to keep the sponsor properly and accurately informed about the progress and actively engage in the high-level decision-making and issues resolution as required. On time box by time box basis, the project manager needs to ensure that the business visionary is engaged in necessary review activity to ensure the solution is evolving in line with the business vision stated in the business case. On a day-to-day basis, the project manager needs to ensure that the business ambassador and the business advisor are actively engaged in guiding the evolution of the solution to meet the business needs. Guarantee delivery of a minimal usable subset. In practical terms, this is primarily about proper application of the Moscow rules, ensuring sufficient contingency in should have and could have requirements. It's available to guarantee that the must-have requirements will be met. Another key responsibility, the project manager has to ensure that the resources needed to work on evolving the solution are available and properly applying themselves to solution development work. All right, I'm just going to read Principle 2, deliver on time, and that's 13.3. So I'll quickly read it through and I'll just put the information on the screen via YouTube. So delivering a solution on time is a very desirable outcome for a project, and it's quite often the single most important success factor. Late delivery can often undermine the very rationale for a project, especially when market opportunities or legal deadlines are involved. Even for projects without a need for a fixed end date, on-time delivery of immediate or contributing products is still the best way to demonstrate control over the evolution of the solution. The project manager needs to ensure that members of the project team time box the work. So that means one of the key responsibilities of a project manager is to create a realistic delivery plan. By the end of the foundation phase, the plan should clearly describe a schedule of the project increments, and for the first imminent increment, a schedule of properly resourced and appropriately focused time boxes. At kickoff for each time box, the project manager needs to ensure that everybody in the solution development team understands and is fully committed to delivering on time solution increments that properly reflect the business priorities. And the next is focus on business priorities. So again, at the kickoff for each time box, the project manager needs to ensure that the work to be done and the solution to be delivered are properly business focused. The project manager does not provide the focus or set the priorities. That comes from the business role. He or she just needs to ensure that they are properly set and agreed by the end of the kickoff. Always hit deadline. So the project manager needs to consistently emphasize the importance of on-time delivery. This is one of the one control that must not be allowed to slip at the time box level. Progress is measured by what is delivered in the time allowed and not by how long it takes to deliver what is agreed. This is fundamentally the fundamental of control in the DSDM project. So every time box must finish on time, always, without exception. So that's literally how it works within Principle 1 and Principle 2. And I'll get back to you again. Hope you enjoy this so far. So I'm going to be reading Principle 3, collaborate, and Principle 4, never compromise on quality. So teams that work in the spirit of active cooperation and commitment will always outperform groups of individuals working only in loose association. Collaboration encourages increased understanding, greater speed, and shared ownership, which enables teams to perform at a level that exceeds the sum of their parts. In practical terms, the project manager needs to ensure that members of the project team involve the right stakeholders at the right time throughout the project. During the feasibility and foundation phase, the project manager needs to ensure that project-level roles, so business sponsor, business visionary, and technical coordinator, and where appropriate, the business analyst, and any required business and technical advisors are actively engaged in shaping the project. During the evolutionary development phase, the project manager needs to ensure that all resources that have been agreed to be involved in the project continue to sufficiently engage to properly fulfill their roles. At all times, the project manager needs to ensure all stakeholders are kept informed of the status of the project and any specialist resources required to assist in the project are engaged as required. Encourage proactive involvement from the business representatives. Proactive business engagement in DSDM projects is critical to its success. The project manager needs to ensure that the right people are engaged at the right time and to the right extent by constantly monitoring and, when required, intervening to make it happen. Where appropriate, the project manager should coach the team to behave in a collaborative way required by DSDM. Ensure that all members of the team are empowered to take decisions on behalf of those they represent. The project manager must ensure that an appropriate work frame of empowerment exists, with the business visionary properly empowering business ambassadors and advisors to shape the detail of the solution, and the technical coordinator properly empowering the solution developers and testers to build a solution to the agreed levels of quality. Where the concept of empowerment is not right, the project manager should expect to intervene either to ensure that the right people are engaged at the right level, and where necessary to consider coaching to ensure the right patterns of behavior are exhibited at both the project and solution team level. Build a one-team culture. It's important that the project manager promotes an environment where more emphasis is placed on success or failure of the team as a whole, rather than focusing on individual performance. However, where the team dynamic is disrupted by the persistent poor performance or behavior of an individual, project managers need to intervene, perhaps even to the extent of removing that individual from the team, if that's what is required to maintain team morale. Okay, now I'm going to read principle for never compromise on quality. In DSDM, the level of quality to be delivered should be agreed at the start. All work should be aimed at achieving the level of quality, no more and no less. A solution has to be good enough. If the business agrees that the features in the minimal usable subset meet the agreed acceptance criteria, then the solution should be good enough to use effectively. In practical terms, the project manager needs to ensure that members of the project team agree the level of quality from the outset before the development starts. This is best achieved by ensuring that maintainability is considered early in the project life cycle. The development approach is properly considered during the foundation phase. This is the responsibility of the technical coordinator, for the project manager should ensure it happens. So the next bit is ensure that quality does not become a variable. Oh, and then going back on that, acceptance criteria are properly defined for all requirements in the prioritization requirement list, so the PRL list. This is the responsibility of the business analyst, but the project manager should ensure it happens. Ensure that quality does not become a variable. On the time box basis, the project manager needs to ensure that the team prioritize quality of higher priority requirements, ensuring they are developed to the agreed standard and meet required acceptance criteria over starting development on lower priority requirements. Ensure that the technical coordinator is involved in appropriate time box reviews as development progresses. Test early, test continuously, and test to the appropriate level. This is primarily the responsibility of the technical coordinator and the solution tester, but the project manager needs to ensure that development approach integrates testing with development as far as is practical. Where appropriate, a strategy for testing should include the development approach by the end of foundations. Products delivered at the end of each time box are reviewed and tested to the extent defined by the development approach and any specific acceptance criteria defined by the time box kickoff. Design and document appropriately. So there's a common misconception in the Agile world that everything the team needs to do should be encapsulated in a user story. This is definitely the case in DSDM projects where high-level analysis and design activity conducted during the foundation phase is intended to shape the solution and the approach to its development. Where appropriate, the high-level solution from both the business and technical perspective should be documented in the solution architecture definition. The project manager is not responsible for producing the SAD, but must ensure that as far as possible the solution design remains at high level during foundation. It intended to guide development and as such is understood and accepted by the solution development team, does not unnecessarily constrain its development and the emerge detail. Right, now I'm going to go into Principle 5, build incrementally from firm foundations, and then Principle 6. So one of the key differentiations for DSDM within the Agile space is the concept of establishing firm foundations for the project before committing to significant development. DSDM advocates first understanding the scope of the business problem to be solved and the proposed solution, but not in such detail that the project becomes paralyzed by overly detailed analysis of requirements. Once firm foundations for development have been established, DSDM advocates increment delivery of the solution in order to deliver real business benefits as early as practical. Incremental delivery encourages stakeholders' confidence, offering a source of feedback for use in subsequent time boxes, and may lead to the early realization of business benefits. In practical terms, the project manager needs to ensure that members of the project team carry out appropriate analysis and enough design up front to create strong foundations for all subsequent work, formally reassess priorities, and informally reassess ongoing project viability with each delivered increment. Guidance for this is covered in the advice provided for the principle above. So the next one is Principle 6, and it is deliver iteratively. So I'm going to start that now. The DSDM uses a combination of iterative development, frequent demonstration, and comprehensive review to encourage timely feedback. Embracing change as part of the evolutionary process allows the team to converge on an accurate business solution. The concept of iterative is at the heart of everything developed as part of the DSDM approach. It is very rare that anything is created perfectly first time, and it's important to recognize that projects operate within a changing world. In practical terms, the project manager needs to ensure that members of the project team build business feedback into each iteration. The project manager needs to ensure that the level of business involvement from business ambassadors and advisors at the time box level is sufficient to support this. Recognize that most details should emerge later rather than sooner. The project manager needs to ensure that the foundation phase of the project does not turn into a detailed analysis and design phase. The work of foundation should shape the project and act as a framework of guidance and necessary constraints rather than be detailed and prescriptive. Where necessary, the project manager will need to reassure the team and the project stakeholders that the emergence of detail is both expected and is intended to reduce the risk of developing the wrong solution. Embrace change. The right solution will not evolve without it. Again, where necessary, the project manager will need to reassure the team and the project stakeholders that the change is both inevitable and in a DSDM project seen as a positive. By embracing change, the risk of developing the wrong solution is reduced. The project manager also needs to ensure that the team continues to make progress throughout the project. It's important that the required changes are therefore properly considered and any additional work associated with change is properly traded off against less important work. For major change, identified by a change to the high-level requirements baselined in the prioritization requirement list, the PRL, at the end of foundations. Formal change control may be required with the business visionary approving any changes and formally acknowledging the trade-offs needed to enable the change. So the next we're going to talk about is Principle 7, which is communicate continuously and clearly. So I want to read it as much quickly as I can. Principle 7, communicate continuously and clearly. Poor communication is often cited as the biggest single cause of project failure. DSDM practices are specifically designed to improve communication effectiveness for both teams and individuals. In practical terms, the project manager needs to ensure that members of the project team make a full and proper use of the DSDM practices, such as workshops, modeling, and features of the process, such as time boxing and the associated daily stand-ups, to communicate amongst themselves. Provide opportunity for anyone who is interested in keep himself informed of what is happening on a project by making the activity and outputs of the DSDM practice visible. Keep documentations lean and timely, and ensure that it only created where it adds genuine value to the development or support of solutions. Manage the expectation of stakeholders at all levels throughout the project, ideally by involving them in the DSDM process. Invite them to end of time box demonstrations rather than creating a parallel stream of writing progression reports. Always aim for honesty and transparency in all communication within and external to the project team. 13.9, Principle 8, demonstrate control. I'm going to try and whiz through this. It's essential to be in control of a project and the solution being created at all times, and to be able to demonstrate that this is the case. High-level plans, designs, and standards outline the fundamentals of what needs to be achieved, how, by when, etc. Being open and honest about how closely and the reality of solution development is adhering to those fundamentals, and being clear about how project team is adapting their activities and when necessary the plan designs and standards themselves to best meet the business needs is the basis of demonstration of control. In practical terms, the project manager needs to ensure that the members of the project team make plans and progression visible to all. So make sure everyone knows what's going on, basically. Delivering plans should be presented in a form that everyone understands and should be kept current and realistic based on the understanding of what has been achieved on a time box by time box basis. Time box plans, ideally in the form of a team board or tool-based equivalent where necessary, should be visible to everyone or everybody with an interest in the project. The solution development team should be updated the board at least daily at the daily stand-up as it's their plans for their work. Measure progress with focus on delivery of products rather than completing activities. Business value can only be achieved through the use of the solution and the project creates. Something almost done actually has less business value than something not started because it exists in some form and adds complexity to the situation and so increases maintenance costs. The only meaningful measure of progress is therefore the delivery solution increment that demonstrates that this value can be achieved. The project manager needs to actively encourage the solution development team to focus on completing high priority features before starting work on low priority ones in order to minimize wasted development time on partially completed features that may never be completed, especially if the lower priority ones promise to be more interesting to work on. Use an appropriate level of formality with tracking and reporting, allowing the project roles to continually assess the viability of the project. As described above, the best way to track progress is through delivery of products, and the best way to keep stakeholders informed of progress is to involve them in the development process. The PM should encourage the engagement of stakeholders in the end the time box demonstrations rather than spending time writing progress reports that are often left unread and tend to lack detail for those who are interested enough to read them. That's it. Or principles of demonstrating control, and then that's principle A, and then principle 7, communicating continuously and clearly. Okay, I'm going to read chapter 14 of the long-term responsibilities, the Agile project manager view. So, as well as providing high-level Agile style leadership, solution development team, the role is focused on managing the work environment in which the solution is evolving. The project manager also coordinates all aspects of management of the project at a high level, but in line with the DSDM concept of empowerment. The project manager is expected to lead the detailed planning of the actual delivery of the products to the members of the solution development team. Managing an empowered team requires a facilitative style rather than a command and control style. Although project manager role is focused on getting the project delivered, appropriate sourcing of the role will depend on the skills and knowledge required and on the project itself. The project manager may come from the business or may come from the solution technical side. For some projects, especially formal contractual projects being delivered by external suppliers, there may be two project managers, one from the business customer and one from the solution, the technical side, the supplier. It is usually all that the project manager takes responsibility throughout the duration of the project. This must include business and technical delivery aspects of the project, from foundation, if not feasible, through the deployment. Wasn't sure if I should read further, but I'll just read through 43.1, which is responsibilities. Ensuring effective, timely communication and provision of information to project governance authorities, business sponsor, project board, steering committee, etc., and stakeholders not actively engaged in the project with the agreed and appropriate level of frequency and quality. Performing high-level projects, planning the schedule, but not detail, time box planning or task planning. Collaborate with the solution development team and other appropriate stakeholders to create the agreed delivery plan, the schedule of project increments and time boxes within them. monitoring progress against a baseline delivery plan, managing risk and issues as they arise, collaborating with senior business or technical roles as required to resolve them, monitoring and ensuring appropriate involvement and communication between required members of the multidisciplinary solution development team, handling problems escalated on the solution development team, providing help and guidance to solution development team when difficult situations arise, attend daily standard meetings as appropriate to keep current understanding of the team's progression and issues, and to flag up to the team when necessary for any important external issues that they need to be aware of. Okay, I'm going to go through the different roles and responsibilities within Agile PM. So yeah, we'll start with those three: sponsor, visionary, and technical coordinator. So the business sponsor, this role is the most senior project level business role. The business sponsor is the project champion who is committed to the project, to the proposed solution, and the approach to delivering it. The business sponsor is specifically responsible for the business case and project budget throughout. However, formally or informally, this may be expressed. The business sponsor must hold a sufficient high position in the organization to be able to resolve business issues and make financial decisions. This role has a crucial responsibility to ensure and enable fast progress throughout the project. The business sponsor should be committed, supportive, and available for the duration of the project, providing a clear escalation route. On smaller projects, the business sponsor role will always be fulfilled by a single person. However, on larger projects or in complex organizations, the business sponsor's financial responsibilities may be fulfilled by a higher authority such as an investment board or an executive committee. In this circumstance, DSDM expects the business to agree a specific person to fund the role. This ensures the project deals with a single ultimate decision maker and an agreed specific person to fund the role. This ensures the project deals with a single ultimate decision maker and a single ultimate escalation point, and is protected from a lack of clarity through different views about the project. So 14.41 responsibilities. Owning the business case for the project. Ensuring ongoing viability of the project in line with the business case. Holding the budget for the project. Ensuring that funds and other resources are made available as needed. Ensuring the decision-making process for escalating the project issue is effective and rapid. Responding rapidly to escalated issues and being the ultimate point of resolution of conflict within the project. Empowering the business role within the project to appropriate levels within the responsibilities. Keeping themselves informed of progress and issues. For example, by attending demonstrations at the end of time boxes and asking questions of other roles who are more actively engaged. So then we're going to read 14.5, which is the business visionary. So this is a senior project level business role that should be held by a single individual, since a project needs a single clear vision to avoid confusion and misdirection. More actively involved than the business sponsor, the business visionary is responsible for interpreting the needs of the business sponsor, communicating these to the team, and where appropriate, ensuring they are properly represented in the business case. The business visionary remains involved throughout the project, providing the team with strategy, direction, and ensuring that the solution delivered will enable the benefit described in the business case to be achieved. At the end of the project, the business visionary will own the deployed solution and will be responsible for the realization of any benefits associated with it. So 14.51 responsibilities. Dividing the business vision for the project, communicating and promoting the business vision to all interested and or impacted parties, monitoring progress of the project in line with the business vision, owning the wider implications of any business change from the organization's perspective, contributing to key requirements designs and review sessions, particularly where aspects of solution being addressed by key elements of a business mission, identifying and owning business-based risks, defining and approving changes to the high-level requirements in prioritization requirement list, any changes that affect the baseline scope or significantly alter the balance of priority, ensuring collaboration across stakeholder business within scope of the project, ensuring business resources are available to the project as needed, promoting the translation of business vision into the working practice, for example, i.e. ensuring full business adoption of solution created by the project, empowering the business role within the solution development team to appropriate levels within the responsibilities, business need, and the way this is addressed in the evolutionary solution. So as the project's technical authority, the technical coordinator ensures that the solution technical role works in a consistent way, that the project is technically coherent and meets desired technical standards. This role provides the glue that holds the technical aspects of the project together while advising on technical decisions and innovation. The technical coordinator performs the same function from the technical perspective as the business visionary does from a business perspective. So the responsibilities: agreeing and controlling technical architecture, determining the technical environment, advising and coordinating each team's technical activity, identifying and owning architecture and other technical-based risks, ensuring the non-functional requirements are achievable and subsequently met, working with business analysts to evaluate the technical options and decide the best way to turn the high-level business requirements into the technical solution, advising on and coordinating each team's approach to estimating to reflect technical best practice and current technical understanding, promoting appropriate standards of technical best practice, controlling the technical configuration of the solution, approving the solution as technically fit for purpose prior to deployment, managing technical aspects of the transition of the solution into live use, empowering the technical role with the solution development team to appropriate levels within responsibilities, acting as the final arbiter of technical differences between solution development team members. Those are the three roles and responsibilities: business sponsor, business visionary, and technical coordinator. Okay, so I'm going to now read the key project manager relationships. So it's page 86 of the Agile PM book. It's 14.16.1. So the project manager and the business sponsor. Although it is important that the project manager takes responsibility for the project delivery, it is vital that the ownership of the project remains with the business sponsor. The project manager needs to ensure that the business sponsor understands and accepts the importance of the responsibility associated with their role, particularly those related to issues resolution. The project manager should make it clear that escalation of issues to the business sponsor will probably be infrequent, but that if it does occur, it will require swift and decisive action. Wherever possible, the project manager should try and establish a relationship with the business sponsor where both parties are comfortable just talking about the project, and then make a point of doing so on an ongoing, regular basis. A 5-minute conversation is likely to be the most effective way of ensuring the business sponsor remains aware of and hopefully comfortable with what is going on in the project. Where the business sponsor may not be comfortable, potential issues can often be avoided through quiet conversation and agreement on a way forward. Even when formal bodies such as steering committees exist, the project manager should talk to the business sponsor outside of that form room, ensuring that there are no surprises for the business sponsor at the meeting, and ideally agreeing a common position on any issue in advance. 14.62, the project manager and the business visionary. Along with technical coordinator, the business visionary is an equal in authority to the project manager. Each of the three roles has the authority for the interest group, business visionary for all business-related decisions, technical coordinator for all technical quality decisions, the project manager for decisions related to how the project should be managed. All three are collectively empowered by the business sponsor to ensure that the right solution is created for the business as a whole and delivered as effectively as possible. The project manager needs to ensure that the business visionary fully understands the responsibilities associated with the role and remains close enough to the project throughout the life cycle in order to fulfill them. During feasibility and foundation phase, the business visionary must be actively engaged in and ideally driving activities to create and promote the business vision, shape the business case, define priorities, high-level requirements. As the business sponsor, the project manager should establish a relationship with the business visionary in which simple, informal conversation about the project progress and issues is raw. During evolutionary development, as a minimum of engagement, the project manager should encourage the business visionary to attend and actively participate in the end of time box review and subsequent project level reprioritization and replanning activities. 14.63, the project manager and the technical coordinator. Along with the business visionary, the technical coordinator is an equal in authority to the project manager. Each of these roles have authority for the interest groups. The business visionary for all business-related decisions, the technical coordinator for all technical quality decisions, the project manager for decisions related to how the project should be managed. All three are collectively empowered by the business sponsor to ensure that the right solution is created for the business as a whole and delivered as effectively as possible. The project manager needs to ensure that the technical coordinator fully understands the responsibilities associated with the role and remains close enough to the project throughout the life cycle as is needed to fulfill them. During the feasibility and foundation phases, the technical coordinator must be actively engaged in and ideally drive activities to ensure a firm architectural foundation for solution is established, non-functional requirements are sensible and achievable, a sensible agile development approach, standards and practices to be applied is agreed with all members of the solution development team. As with the business sponsor, the project manager should establish a relationship with the technical coordinator in which simple conversations about the project progress and issues is the norm. During evolutionary development, as a minimum of engagement, the project manager should encourage the technical coordinator to actively participate in the end of time box reviews and subsequent project level reprioritization and replanning activities. 14.16.4, the project manager and the business analyst. The business analyst participates in the project in association with both project level roles and solution development team. In both cases, the business analyst is there to assist the roles in ensuring the solution that evolves is genuinely fit for purpose. At the project level, The project manager needs to establish a close relationship with the business analyst, working together to ensure that the right solution evolves in the most effective way and that any issues exhibiting the effectiveness are dealt with swiftly and appropriately. This requires a clear mutual understanding of responsibilities and a genuine respect for each other's role. An experienced business analyst who lacks experience with DSDM may be tempted in two ways of working that are typical of the role in more traditional project approaches, but this must be avoided in an agile project. Working at a detailed level in the life cycle, this is typical in approaches where detailed analysis and design activities precede development. This early detail is highly inappropriate in an agile environment where detail is expected to emerge over time during evolutionary development. Write everything down in detailed documents, perhaps with a focus on getting formal, upfront agreement to this prior to development work commencing. Again, this is typical in more traditional approaches, but inappropriate when using an agile approach. Iterative development relies on a much less formal mechanism for agreeing what is needed and checking that it's delivered. In both cases, the project manager should encourage the business analyst to work in an agile way. 14.6.5. The project manager and the team leader. The project manager and the team leader roles are focused on different levels of detail and based on day-to-day interactions with different roles. The project manager interacts primarily, with the project level roles and other stakeholders, collectively providing high-level direction and dealing with equally high-level planning and issue management. The team leader works at the detailed level, working in a facilitative style with the solution development team and associate business and technical advisors dealing with day-to-day planning and management of the work needed to evolve the solution. The relationship between two roles is critical to the success of the project. From the project manager's perspective, there is a need to balance empowerment of the solution development team, including the team leader, to get the job done, with a need to understand whether things are progressing smoothly in line with the commitment made to deliver what has been agreed at the end of each time box. This is best achieved by the project manager participating actively in agreed time box review points and acting as an observer at the daily standout. In a relationship where conversation rather than more formal mechanisms of the communication is the norm, a quiet, supportive conversation about any issue the project manager has observed at the stand-up is the best way to maintain the required balance of empowerment and control. Where the same individual holds both project manager and team leader role, great care must be taken to ensure that the style of management and leadership is properly aligned with the situation. For example, retaining a peer-to-peer relationship at the solution development team level rather than a manager-to-worker relationship. The project manager and the solution development team. So the relationship between the project manager and the solution development team tend to be informal and hands-off, where the project manager behaves more as an observer than the manager. The project manager should adapt a facilitative style of management wherever there is a need to engage directly with the solution development team. For example, at least for the first instance, helping the team to resolve its own issues rather than immediately starting to manage them. Balancing empowerment with control is critical, and the project manager should use a combination of management by objection and management by exception. Management by objection requires the project manager to ensure that the solution development team understands the objectives they have agreed with themselves at the beginning of each time block and the importance of meeting the delivery commitment they have made to meet that objective. Management by exception is one of the tracking and control concepts that requires the project manager to exert control if, for whatever reason, the team believes that they are unable to meet the commitment they have made. One key exception to the hands-off approach is where the issue between the team members are not being resolved. One key exception to the hands-off approach is where the issue between the team members are not being resolved. In this circumstance, it may be necessary for the project manager to be proactive in resolving any issues likely to disrupt the morale and the productivity of the team as a whole. So the last one is 14.16.7, which is project manager and other stakeholders. The first of the responsibilities described for the project manager is ensuring effective and timely communication and provision of information to the project governance authority and stakeholders not actively engaged in the project with the agreed and appropriate level of frequency and formality. It is important that the project manager keeps other stakeholders informed about the progress, future plans, and any major risks. Communication in this regard should always be open and honest. In communicating with stakeholders, it is best to adopt the philosophy that there is no good news or bad news. It's important that stakeholders understand this, and the project manager should avoid being drawn into the world of politics and the management of the message. The project manager should focus instead on managing the issue itself. Where required, the project manager may play a part in facilitating communication between other project level roles and their stakeholder peers, effectively helping them to meet responsibilities, but must not fall into the trap of accepting those responsibilities or inappropriately owning the relationship between the project and individual stakeholders. So in summary, which is 14.17, DSDM roles 2 dimensions, categories and interests. Roles are grouped into 3 categories: project roles, solution development team roles, and supporting roles. Within a DSDM project, the different interests are represented using colours. Orange represents the business interests, green represents the solution and technical interests, blue represents management interests, and grey represents process interests. The business analyst role is coloured in a mix of orange and green, since the role often straddles boundaries between business and solution technical interests. On a DSDM project, one role may be fulfilled by several people, or one person may fulfill several roles. DSDM values individual and interactions over process and tools. The role and responsibilities defined by DSDM are both comprehensive and carefully considered. The project manager should ensure that everybody who participates in a DSD project understands their role, their responsibilities, and the importance of respecting these in the context of a collaborative, productive whole project team. Okay, I'm going to continue on with the roles and responsibilities within the famous Agile PM book. I thought I might just because this podcast, if you're looking on the YouTube channel, is also a podcast, so you might not know what's going on here. But basically, I've changed my view a few times. I'm currently in a hotel. It's part of my job sometimes to go to different locations if we have to work on some stuff collaboratively, or if I want to get some training somewhere. So, so I'm in a slightly different location today because I'm not in London at the moment. I'm outside London right now. But it's quite good because a lot of the time my husband, as some of you might know from my previous podcast episodes, my husband's autistic. And sometimes having an autistic person, and also me with a neurodiversity, which is dyslexia and ADHD, sometimes it can be very draining because my husband requires a lot of attention. So sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a break, although I miss him so dearly. So I'm going to continue this last bit of the DSDM and roles and responsibilities. I believe it's a very last section of the book. Yeah, so it's page 90. I'm going to read this last bit of the book. But I just thought before I go into the roles and responsibilities and like going through the Agile project management top tips, I just wanted to just say something. I'm feeling really not great. I feel like, and I think that's probably as a woman and also a dyslexic and ADHD woman, I feel quite irritable. I feel quite emotional. I've been having a lot of health issues, constantly going to the doctors and like having loads of blood tests and just not knowing what's wrong with me, always feeling really tired. There's some medication that I'm considering taking, but I'm not too sure because of the side effects. So I'm just kind of holding off that at the moment just to really pray and think about it. I've just not been feeling like me, like 100% myself. And I'm hoping that it's not coming off, but normally when you're not feeling 100, it does kind of come off on the episodes. And I've only just started doing YouTube. So it's like, I should be happy all the time, but sometimes I just have to be honest. Like, I'm not always going to be happy, you know, and it's okay to feel like a type of way sometimes. But yeah, I thought I'd just put that disclaimer out there just to know, I think I need a holiday. But anyway, let's get cracking. Let's dive into this last part. So the first one says roles and responsibilities, Agile project management top tips. So the first tip they're giving us here is getting a good business ambassador is often challenging as these are knowledgeable and skilled people, usually key to the business. That is the reason why the project needs them, as they input drives the quality of the ultimate solution. Next is check that the business has confidence in the person taking the business ambassador role. This person will be making the majority of the day-to-day decisions on behalf of the business during the evolutionary development. It is possible, although unusual, the visionary and the sponsor are the same person fulfilling two roles. However, there is no point in one person filling the business ambassador and the business advisor role. Ambassador only calls on the business advisors to provide detailed subject matter expertise that they don't possess themselves. There should ideally be a single business sponsor and a single business visionary for a DSDM project. Having multiple sponsors is not too much of an issue, provided you are a PM with agreed escalation mechanisms and direct contact with an empowered decision maker at this level. Having multiple business visionaries is a very big problem. However, as a business vision created by committee rarely has the clarity, power, and applied passion that a vision created by a single mind has, the demand for multiple business visionaries has its origins in the politics of the organization. Where this is the case, try to identify a single business visionary. Typically, the person most passionate about the change that is needed, and use a body such as a steering group to ensure that all views are properly represented and the solution retains the organizational wide balance. It's good practice to use the DSDM team model diagram, which is in section 14.2 of the book model. So it looks a bit like this. Let's try and put it close up so you can see. To fill the names of each role and to make this visible to the whole team and relevant stakeholders from the start of the project. Consider discussing the responsibilities for each role with the role owners to ensure that they are happy with what is expected of them. Where you are fulfilling both the project manager and the team leader role, a common combination, always be aware of which role you are in at any point in time, as the behaviors are different. For example, at stand-up, wearing your team leader hat, you are an active participant, but you're not acting as the project manager at this point. Make every effort to have solution testers working inside the team rather than as part of a separate QA function, which always builds in delay and can create divisions across the project. On large multi-teams projects, so big massive projects, it can be very useful to have a technical coordination team. Each team member covers all teams, but only one or more of the roles and responsibilities. If resources are tight, consider combining the roles of the business analyst and team leader. Both roles have a keen interest in the feasibility, cohesion, and acceptability of what's being built. So those are the top tips for Agile project managers. I hope this is helpful. I hope this podcast and the YouTube channel wasn't too long, but I like to try and make things as interesting as I can. I hope I'm bringing value. Please tell me if I'm not and I can make improvements. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope this is helpful. I want to let our audience members know about the 6-week coaching program that I'll be offering people who are neurodivergent, but you could be also neurotypical. For those who want to improve their career prospects in general, or for those who want to get into project management. I mentioned this in previous episodes. I'm not trying to sell it very hard, but it's a really good program to get on, particularly if you have a neurodivergent condition and you want to get into project management. Can't talk right now. I want to make this time available for people who want to learn like a new skill. They want to advance themselves in their career. I want to help you get there. I'm also offering support to people who want to pass the Prince 2 practitioner exams. As I've taken the exam, I've failed it a few times, but I would like to help others and show them how I passed from a neurodivergent perspective. I'm dyslexic, I'm ADHD. I want to give you the tips, tricks, everything that you can do to ensure that you pass that exam. So if this sounds interesting to you, or you'd like to learn more, please reach out to me directly. My email is hello@divineenigma.org. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll leave the information of this episode in the description bar if you're watching on YouTube, or within the show notes if you're listening online through the podcast. So like I like to say always, please follow me on all platforms where you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening to Divine Enigma. And if you got to the end, this is a safe place for project managers and professionals to give you the tools and tips, or tips and tools, I interchange between the two, on how to navigate the complexity of being neurodiverse in the workplace. I will see you soon. Take care.